Hey, so I wasn't originally going to make a video about this, but I'm going to go ahead and just talk about it real quick. So I was watching some YouTube shorts, and the short that came up was a delivery guy dropping off some food to a customer's door very brashly. Like he literally just tossed the bag of food to the front door and quickly walked off saying, thanks, and God knows what else he was mumbling under his breath, right? He wasn't, saying anything crazy other than thank you and have a good day, as far as I can make out. But it's just the fact that he tossed their order to the front door. And I'm pretty sure that customer's food, if it wasn't spilled out of the container into the bag, in the container, when they go to open it up, that food is going to be all mixed up or tossed or whatever. And there was so many people in the comments absolutely appalled, like pissed off and like, that's crazy and they deserve to be fired. They should get fired and blah blah blah. And they're like they shouldn't do delivery jobs for, these apps like Uber and blah 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 if they, don't want to do the job and they can always go get a better job. And you know what? I can tell just how many people actually know nothing about what they call ride share work. If you work for an app like Uber, DoorDash, Postmates, Grubhub, and so forth, Instacart, any of them, it's called ride share work. Whether you are picking up people and dropping them off or picking up packages and dropping it off, Amazon is included in that as well, Amazon Flex or whatever. If you pick up food orders and drop them off, groceries, it just doesn't matter. Like I said, people, it's considered rideshare work. And a rideshare worker is a independent contractor, meaning they don't work directly for the company. They're considered like a self-employed individual slash independent contractor, meaning they're responsible for every single expense incurred to do the job. So they're responsible for paying for their own transportation, be it they're riding a bicycle for Postmates, or I think with DoorDash you can ride a bike, right? I know for sure with Postmates, whether they're delivering on foot, some of these apps they require you to drive a car, and if it's a vehicle, a car, a van, a truck, they're responsible for providing that transportation. So they may have a car note, they may not have a car note, they may have purchased a used vehicle to do the job. Either way it go, and they're responsible for the transportation, they're responsible for the gasoline to do the job. These companies do not provide gasoline, they just don't. And believe it or not, a lot of the people that you see out here stopping in their own cars or in plain vans, those are independent contractors. Okay. Even the so-called courier vans that you may see can be considered independent contractors, in which an actual business decided to have a contract with Amazon, and then they hire their own workers. Now that's different. Those people would be hourly. However, what you should know is if you're getting groceries or a hot food order, and yes, sometimes your actual packages from Amazon, um, some of the people delivering your packages from Amazon are independent contractors working through the Amazon Flex app. If it comes down to your groceries, if it comes down to a hot food order, or literally getting a ride from one location to another, that's an independent contractor. They're not an employee of that company. And because of that, that company, the app, they do not have to pay these individuals a salary, meaning they don't have to guarantee them an hourly rate of pay. They don't have to guarantee them a weekly pay or biweekly pay or monthly pay. They don't have to guarantee them any benefits whatsoever. They don't have to guarantee them or offer them any health care or any expenses to cover their transportation costs. If they get into a car accident while doing the job, they do not have to come out and help them or rescue them in any form. Now, with Uber, I can't speak for the other apps besides Amazon Flex. They do provide an emergency feature where, if you find yourself in distress, you can click on it and ADT will respond. Now, that's usually pertaining to if you think you're in danger, not necessarily if you have a flat tire, though they may call a tow truck for you possibly. I haven't had any other experience with that other than I accidentally clicked on that feature and they quickly respond for your safety, which is great. But these companies, they do not offer anything other than they may create partnerships with other companies, such as a gasoline company or a tire company or something like that, to help offer their independent contractors who work for them through their apps and through their companies. They may offer them, uh, you know, discounts, but even those discounts are really, they're not really worth anything, in my opinion, and to an independent contractor, because the discounts are not very large. Some of the discounts can range between 2 to 5% off, or 10 to 15% off. Is it possible that they may offer a 20% discount off somewhere, or maybe something a little larger? It depends on if you've earned a certain amount of points as a driver, if you've earned a certain status in the app as a driver, a rideshare driver, or how long you may have been working for the company. But nothing's guaranteed, because even if you work your way up to the top level as an independent contractor for that company in the app, the moment you stop doing the job for even a few weeks, 2 to 3 weeks or so, I think for most apps, it's on average, like it would have to be like, maybe I want to say a month or so, minimum a month, maybe a few months. So if you get sick or anything, or whatever happens, and you have to take time off from doing that job, you everything you've earned is not guaranteed. They literally can wipe all that out, and then you start back over from scratch. I actually experienced that. Okay. I've done these jobs. In fact, I've done every kind of job you could think of, except for, dancing on a pole. Okay. And non-solicitation type stuff. But I'm saying, like, I've done all kinds of customer service jobs, and working in call centers, factories, in retail industry, in marketing industry, you name it, have my own businesses and things like that, that I was working through. So I could definitely say from experience that I've even worked in a restaurant. When you do jobs that require tipping, the tip matters to you as a worker. Any service that you receive as a customer, where you're encouraged to tip, or you should tip, please take into account that, like I said, drivers have to pay for their own transportation. So they may have a car note, or they may have bought a vehicle. They have to pay for car insurance, gas, tires, oil changes. And if they're doing this job regularly, they probably have to get an oil change every month. Oil changes can be $50 to $100, depending on where you're getting it done, and depending on the type of vehicle that you have. Tires are expensive. They may have to get their car worked on. They're wearing their own transmission out on their vehicle by doing these jobs. Why? Because they're constantly going. Their car doesn't get a lot of time, downtime, to cool off. And even if they take a lunch break, that's still not enough. I know plenty of people who have done rideshare jobs, or have worked in the service industry that require tipping. I've done the jobs myself. It's an honest, hard day's work, and it should be respected. If you don't have the affordability to tip, or you're too cheap to tip, you have no business ordering any type of service, whether you sit down in a restaurant, or you order over an app and have your order delivered. If you can't tip, it's entitlement to absolutely think that you get to be served in any form and sit on your behind at home or in a restaurant, and somebody is literally taking their time, their energy, and their effort to serve you. You have to drive to that location, and if you accept an order, you have to drive that location. You may not be at that location already. You might be near it, or you might not. So a driver is en route a lot of times when they're receiving an order. So they have to drive to that location. They could be a few miles from there, or they could be 10 miles from there. Nonetheless, they accepted your order. They don't have to. Drivers literally can, yeah, reject some orders. So a lot of you, I saw in comments on these different videos are like, oh, they can always reject assignment. Well, guess what? A lot of you who you may have complaints that you've been waiting on your order's been delayed, or it take a while to get it. Guess why? Because so many drivers likely passed up on your order. Why? Because you didn't tip. And for those who are saying, oh, well, I like to tip in cash, or wait to tip after the service has been received to make sure I get good service. Let me tell you something. It's not common these days for people to receive cash tips, depending on where you live, especially. The more time presses on into the future, cash tips are becoming more and more scarce, so it's not as common anymore. Therefore, drivers and service people, they don't have as much confidence that a customer will tip if they didn't tip up front in the app. You guys have, at least in the Uber Eats app, you have up to an hour after the service has been provided, meaning they dropped off your order, to change the tip amount. Either you can increase the tip amount because you thought the service was great, or you can keep the tip amount exactly as it was because you felt like it was already sufficient, or you can decrease the tip amount all the way down to zero if you absolutely find that you were given poor customer service. However, keep in mind, if you purposely take advantage of this in the wrong way by deciding, oh yeah, I'm going to put a tip in advance so that they give me good service, and then I'm going to zero it out after they drop the food off, you're literally setting yourself up for the worst karma ever. And you're setting yourself up to possibly get blacklisted by drivers. You know, drivers in your area oftentimes will recognize customers if they're repeat customers. True, I have had repeat customers who I would, I didn't know it was their order that I accepted until after I received it. And then I say, oh, I recognize them. And they'll even recognize me. And, hey, how you doing? Now I think the communication, I know at Uber Eats has been limited a bit. I don't do Uber Eats or rideshare work anymore. I don't do these kind of jobs anymore. And one of the reasons why I got out of it is because people truly, they don't appreciate your energy, your time, your effort, the money you've put into doing the job and the hard work. Like I said, you literally do have the option, of course, of writing off your expenses as an independent contractor. However, you have to wait until tax time. And when you do write off your expenses to do the job, guess what? The only thing that actually does is offset the actual amount that you owe in taxes as an independent contractor. Guess what? We still have to pay taxes on the money we were paid to do the job because taxes weren't taken out prior like a regular job and regular hourly or salaried job. So they're making even less money. After a independent contractor, rideshare driver or whoever, after they, deduct out their actual expenses to do the job and they do the taxes and see what they owe, meaning they got to minus out what they owe to the IRS because you can't skip over the IRS. Uncle Sam will come get you if you if you don't pay your taxes. Then they get to see what their actual real true income is. And if you really pay attention and you do the math correctly, and a lot of people, they really don't, it's not what you thought you were making. It's just not. And for me, I'm just too intelligent to work for less than what I actually deserve and working for pennies. Now, for me, this was part-time work. For some people, it is just part-time work. It's extra money to pay some bills, or it's extra money to do whatever it is they need to do. You know what I'm saying? It could be extra money for Christmas, extra money for whatever. A lot of times these days, people, they could have a full-time job and still need to work a part-time job on the side to make up for the inflation. Okay. So you guys, have respect for the fact that these people are out here doing honest work for a living. A lot of them, they're doing it full time. They have children, they have families. Some of them don't. Some of them could be students, some of them are just young adults, or they're just adults, period. They're doing honest work. They're not out here stealing from anybody. They're not out here killing anybody. They're not out here, literally robbing anybody or harassing anyone. They're just doing their job. And today, in a time where there's more theft and crimes going on than a little bit, just like it's rampant now, people complain so much about the crime, but it's like when you see someone doing honest hard work, you don't want to truly acknowledge it. The best way to acknowledge it is to understand that these apps, they don't pay what you paid. The restaurant takes their share of the pie, obviously, because you got to pay for the food, right? And the restaurant got to make their money. But guess who else got to who else is going to take their piece of the pie? The app itself. They're not providing that service for free. Even if they say free delivery, they're still taking their cut out of whatever it is being paid. So that restaurant has to share their money with the app. So whatever the restaurant is charging you, I guarantee you the app, the company, they're taking some of that. And then they divvy out, they take out and apply the rest to the worker. By the way, if there's any taxing going on or any kind of licensing fees that the state or the city or whoever may be charging them, and those fees are in there sometimes too. Well, quite a bit they're in there. You just don't see it until, as a rideshare driver, you get your income sheet to go do your taxes or whatever, or your what you call it, your W-4. So the rideshare workers, they're not making what you think they're making. They're just not. So you have to take that into account. A lot of you may not be aware of that. I'm here to make you aware of that. And the one thing that I'm glad that I have experienced in different types of jobs is I actually understand what goes behind it and into it. So I have a far greater appreciation for a service that is provided to me. I do not ever skip out on a tip. I just don't. You would have had to be the worst, worker in the world, or you would have had to have, I don't know, curse me out or something. You would have had to done something really extreme for me to not tip you. Even if I think you gave poor service, I'm still going to tip you. I'm just not going to give you the standard tip. I standard tip. Sometimes I over tip. Why? Because I understand that these workers are depending on it. They're absolutely dependent on it. It makes a difference in what they're getting paid because the apps aren't paying them very well, with the exception of maybe if the app offers them incentives or promos, which is not a regular thing. That's occasional to encourage drivers or to reward drivers that may be out there doing good, consistent work, but it's not on a regular, consistent basis. It's not something they can rely on or depend on. So I'll say this in full and final. The next time you decide you want to order from Uber Eats or Postmates, Grubhub, or whoever, DoorDash, whether or Instacart, be it groceries or it's some kind of item, maybe you order from Amazon Prime Now or something, and there's something you need right away because they do require tipping. If it's a hot food order that you're ordering, if you can't be thoughtful enough, considerate enough to tip, if you can't afford to tip, you have no business putting in that order. Please get up and go to the store yourself or go to the restaurant yourself and get the items and the things that you want. Whether you got to walk, get on a bus, drive, catch a ride with somebody, but don't sit there and feel entitled to the service and think that, oh, whatever the app is paying them should be sufficient. It's not. It's absolutely an insult. And I don't work for these companies anymore. That's the reason why. There's a lot of people who I know still do. There's some people I know who quit. Whether they still work for these companies or not, these are the general complaints that pretty much every driver would have that customers don't understand. Just because you don't tip, though, doesn't mean that a driver should be the worst towards you. However, I'm explaining to you why they may have a low sense of morale and feel slighted and feel upset, angry, and yeah, they may have a bad attitude and give you poor service, or they may not even take your order at all. I've had customers that absolutely thank me that I accepted their order, because I would let them know, hey, I just got your order, and they would tell me, oh wow, finally somebody picked up my order. Because when you don't tip, especially up front, for that driver to see that you are mindful about them doing the service, it discourages them, or it makes them feel some type of way. It makes them feel bad. If you absolutely have to tip cash, maybe including your notes, will tip cash upon delivery if it's possible. Go into your account and see where you can leave notes for the drivers or something. If you're going to tip cash, make sure they know to meet you at the door. Make sure you're at the door and you're there with the cash in hand and a smile on your face and saying thank you, because they really did do you a favor. They're not just out here working for the money, because the money is not really that great. But when you tip and you have a positive attitude, it makes the job worth it, or at least makes the job acceptable. Don't judge these people for what they do and say, well, they should get a better job. A lot of times people, they're doing what they're capable of doing, what they're able to do, what's convenient for them to do. Some of these people, like I said, they already have full-time jobs. This is side money that they may need or may want to pay for the things they want, or they pay for the things they need. Either way it go, if it's the only job they have and it's their full-time work, that's all the more reason to respect what they're doing. It's entitlement at best to feel any type of way about the service provided to you because you feel like you're the customer and the customer is always right. No, some of you are actually wrong. And it's a shame. A lot of these apps, they won't vouch for these drivers. They don't tell you how this actually works. They won't even explaining this to you, but I'm explaining it to you. And by the way, the same way you guys could complain about a driver can also complain about you. You do not want to get put off the app because you pissed the driver off, or you are absolutely disregarding the driver themselves. As much as they have to consider you, you have to also consider them. The one, it's not like somebody working at McDonald's or Applebee's where you get to complain to their manager and they're in the hot seat, but you're not. No, you're held accountable too as a customer with the apps. If a customer is absolutely difficult, they will, and a driver reports this, they're not going to keep you in their system. You can get booted out from their system and denied service. So keep that in mind. You know, rideshare work, it's a literal give and take. It's a literal give and take. It's somebody saying, hey, I'll get you your food and you can pay me. So pay them. Part of paying them is tipping them, not sitting there feeling like, oh, well, the app will pay them. The app is not paying them much of anything. So keep that in mind and know that karma is a very real thing. So even if that person still shows a positive attitude, it will come back on you. And I've seen it happen to people before where they were too stingy to cheat. They were too stingy and cheap to tip, and then they find later on that financially they're seeing money coming out of they're seeing all kind of unexpected expenses hit them up, or they're losing money somehow, or they might find themselves in the same position one day, because you have to remember, God bless you with everything you have. People give themselves too much credit and they pat themselves on the back saying, well, I worked hard for this. God made sure the devil couldn't steal any opportunities from you. And at the end of the day, you could wake up and yeah, you're successful one day because yeah, you put the work and effort into it and God saw you through. However, you could wake up tomorrow and be unemployed, be broke, or anything, and find that you have to take whatever work you can take to make sure those bills are paid or that your family or your children are fed. Remain humble, have humility. Everyone should have that. And any person who's doing this job, they have a lot of humbleness and humility. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. However, remember, they're human, just like you. So don't expect superb customer service and that a driver has to kiss your behind and bend over backwards and, oh, the customer's always right. Even when you know you're not right or you're not doing what you actually should, which is the tip. Yeah, tipping actually should be required. I do not understand why apps allow customers to not tip. I honestly think it should be required. And however, if customer service was awful, a customer can complain and then the company can evaluate and take the tip back or credit the customer to make up for it. That's how I actually think it should be done, so that no one's losing, not use the customer and not the driver, but drivers can be held accountable or customers can be held accountable as well if they're not, um, likely to want to tip on their own. Anyway, I'm going to end this at that. Peace. Comment, like, subscribe, check out my other videos. Have a great day.